Coming up on BG24 Sports, men's basketball is back on track. The guys are at the top of the MAC and getting ready for the tournament.
And the losing streak continues for women's basketball. Can the women's team turn around for the MAC tournament?
Plus, hockey has one more regular season series before the WCHA tournament, but are they ready? We'll go over this and more coming up right here on BG24 Sports.
It's un-Falcon believable coverage that you won't get anywhere else. This is BG24 Sports.
Welcome to BG24 Sports. I'm Katie Wernke.
And I'm Terry Lash. And the men's basketball team defeated Miami by a score of 62-57 on Saturday, ending the Red Hawks' 4-game winning streak. Katie, it was a great comeback win for the Falcons.
It absolutely was. For the Falcons to not score for 10 minutes in the second period and then to overcome a double-digit deficit, it was an absolutely great game, like you said, beating the Red Hawks on a 4-game winning streak to put the Falcons, back at the top, back in the MAC standings up high. It was a really big game. If we take a look at some of these stats, across the board, they really were even, though. They didn't differ too much.
No, not at all. Look at some of the stats right here. 41% field goal percentage, only 17% three-point percentage, 28 boards compared to Miami's 31. Very similar game for both teams. Neither team shot well, but the Falcons came up clutch when it mattered most. That final 8 minutes is when Zach Denny led those Falcons, and Bowling Green came out with a victory.
Absolutely, and with the 19 wins now, this is the most. These are the most wins that Bowling Green has had since 2008 in the 2009 season. So it's really a turnaround for this men's basketball program, and we saw Zach Denny was the leading scorer. Rashawn Holmes had 15 points, and I think this is one of the first games that Rashawn Holmes was not the leading scorer.
You're right. We've been looking for other people to step up, and finally Zach Denny back in the forefront, led all scorers with 17 points in this one, 45% on field goal percentage, 50 from behind downtown. He also added in 5 rebounds. You got to remember, Zach Denny at only 6'3", one of the best rebounders in the entire MAC. Also, 13 of those 17 points in the final 8 minutes of that ball game.
Which, like we said, was very vital for this team to come from behind an 11-point deficit to beat the Red Hawks. And Zach Denny, it was 67% on his free throws. And in a game where every point matters, that is very important for him to get those free throws, and he nailed them.
And he was struggling going into this game. You got to remember, the game before against Ohio, only 3 points. He was actually benched a couple weeks ago. Zach Denny in the starting lineup, even against Miami, where he put up those 17 coming off of the bench. Before that game, he had 5 points, and then before that, 7. So finally, kind of breaking his cold streak a little bit in this one.
Absolutely. He averages 9.7 points per game. But one guy that we cannot forget about is Rashawn Holmes. Like I said, I think for the first game in a long time, he was not the leading scorer. And Rashawn Holmes, he had 15 points in the game against Miami, 1 block. On the season, he averages 14.4 points per game. He's past the 1,000-point mark, which is only the 12th player in Bowling Green history to get 12,000 points in his career. I
think the most impressive thing about that is he came here as a sophomore transfer. So he didn't get all 4 years at Bowling Green, still got to those 1,000 points. A crazy year for Rashawn, a great career for Rashawn Holmes in this game, but he wasn't the star. It was Zach Denny. Rashawn Holmes, only 1 block, not what we're used to seeing on Rashawn Holmes, and his dominating post defense.
No, absolutely not. He's only had 4 games this season where he has scored where he has not scored double-digit points rather. So he's a very key player for the Falcons.
You're right, and he's what's led the Bowling Green to their great successful season. And now if we look at the MAC standings, Bowling Green at the top of the MAC East, and they're tied for first with Toledo and Central Michigan in the entire MAC standings. But look at those top 3 teams, Buffalo and Kent State as well. Bowling Green plays both of those teams this week, Katie.
Absolutely. Buffalo, like you said, that's a big game. Buffalo's on a 4-game win streak. Bowling Green's on that 2-game win streak. They sort of turned it around after losing 2 in a row. Now, Bowling Green's on that streak. Buffalo's on that streak. So it's a very important weekend for the Falcons, and week when they take on Kent State tomorrow.
Absolutely. It's just an insanely competitive conference. You have no idea what's going to happen. I don't think the Falcons are going to win the MAC tournament, but they're definitely making it interesting.
It will be very interesting looking at the MAC West, definitely, when you have Central Michigan and Toledo at the top there as well.
You're right. It should be a very exciting finish to the regular season this week.
Absolutely.
And when we come back, the ice hockey team is continuing their struggles. We'll see how they did this weekend in Alaska. Stay right here.
Hockey had a big weekend up at Alaska Anchorage. They won Friday 4-3, but a big loss on Saturday 1-6. The Seawolves were the last team in the WCHA. But Terry, let's take a look at the Saturday game, the Seawolves by period. They had 4 goals in the second period and then 2 in the third.
Actually, it's more late period struggles for the Falcons. It's been a trend the last 2 months for Bowling Green that they just can't get right. You have to remember, Alaska Anchorage, the worst team in the WCHA coming into this game, putting up 6 goals on that Bowling Green defense. It's just not looking good for the Falcons hockey team.
Absolutely. They had 4 power plays in the second period, 2 in the third period. Bowling Green had 8 penalties, and they gave up for 27 minutes, while Alaska only had 2 penalties for 4 minutes. When the power plays are that big of a difference, it's really going to affect the outcome of the game.
They've just been lacking discipline recently, and we're not sure where it came from. This is a team that was firing on all cylinders going into this contest, like going into the last 2 months, and they just seem to have fallen off the tracks, and they're just not playing the same brand of Falcon hockey that they were.
Absolutely. If we take a look at the 2 goalies, too, we saw both of them this weekend. First, Tommy Burke was in on Friday, but going to Saturday again, with that big loss, he allowed 3 goals, 1 power play goal. He was taken out in the second period after that third goal because he just was not getting the job done.
You're right, and we've been talking all last 2 months about should they keep Burke and Nell, or should they just keep Burke in there. This time they try to go just Burke, and it backfired against them in that Saturday game. But when they put Nell in, wasn't much better results. Look at some of the results here for Chris Nell. 3 goals allowed in about a period of play. 1 from the power play, only 8 saved, almost allowing as many goals as he did save. So both Falcon goalies kind of struggling this weekend against the worst team in the league.
Absolutely. The stats were really the same for these 2 goalies, too. Head coach Chris Bergeron thought he would get a different result from putting in Chris Nell, and he got the same result, 3 goals and 1 power play goal. The team has just been struggling lately, though, giving up the late period goals we saw against Northern Michigan. They gave up a 3-1 lead in the third period. They gave up 3 goals then. They're 1-4 in the last 5 games. Not good for the Falcons, who were 8th in the country at one point.
You're right. This is a team that was just soaring up the USCHO standings and have dropped all the way down to 13 with the new rankings that came out today. There's just no explanation for it, really. It just seems like 2 completely different teams.
It could possibly be the youth of this team, though. They do have a lot of young players. They have the leadership from some of the upperclassmen and some of the guys who have been there, but a lot of it does fall back on the youth when you don't have a lot of the guys who have played in, back-to-back games, and it's a tough season for the Falcons. So it could fall back on the young team.
And if now we look at some of these standings in the WCHA, Bowling Green still in number 3 right now. Looks like they're going to be able to retain that spot to the end of the year with their 15-8-3 record. But Minnesota State and Michigan Tech, who were within reach of the Falcons a few weeks ago, are just way above them now, Katie.
Yes, Bowling Green did secure that 3rd seed in the WCHA tournament. They got home ice advantage for the first round of the tournament. But these WCHA standings, like I said just a minute ago, it is a very tough conference. It's a tough season for the Falcons, a lot of conference play, and when they get into this tournament, they're going to have to face possibly Michigan Tech, maybe Minnesota State if they make it far enough, and it's going to be a very tough road ahead for the Falcons.
And that's a big if. They might not even get that far, Katie. They have to keep playing better hockey. They're going to lose in the first round.
Making a bold prediction now.
I'm not saying they are, but they're trending right towards that direction, Katie.
They really are, and the NCAA tournament is up in the air as well. We know that the conference winners from each conference get an automatic bid, but the top 16 teams go, and we don't know if the Falcons are going to be one of those teams. It's based on data and numbers throughout the season, and if the Falcons, if they don't win these next 2 games, then we're unsure of where they might end up.
Yeah, and it's crazy. We would have never said this 2 months ago. We were talking about Bowling Green maybe being a 1 seed in the tournament. Now we're talking about if they will even make it. It's just a tale of 2 seasons right now for the Falcon hockey team, and right now they are spiraling downwards.
They definitely are. We'll see if they can bring it back against Alabama Huntsville this weekend, the last regular season series.
Yeah.
So home, so maybe they'll pull it around.
Hopefully with the help of the Bleacher Creatures, they can finally get a couple wins on the board.
I guess we'll find out. But when we come back, the women's basketball team is riding a downward spiral. How do the women turn it around? We'll tell you what we think when we come back.
And it was another tough week for the Falcon women's basketball team, losing to both Miami and Ohio University this weekend. Falcons now dropped to last in the MAC standings. And Katie, it's just been an abysmal season for the Falcons.
It really has. If we take a look at their last 10 games, they've only had one win against Miami and then 9 losses. They're on a 9-game losing streak, and a lot of those games have been double-digit losses, the most by 25 points twice in those 9 games, and then they lost to Ohio by 20. Their last win came in January. It's been a very tough road for the Falcons.
And you have to wonder, how did this team get here? This is a team that in the NCAA NIT last year almost beat eventual champion Rutgers. They had over 30 wins on the season. Where did they get to this point? We have to talk about the graduating seniors from last year like Jillian Hatfield, and most importantly, injuries. Injuries have absolutely stricken this team. We got to talk about Erica Donovan, the team's best player, Abby Siefker. Jasmine Matthews has been in and out of the lineup all season long. They have just been decimated by injuries. That's really what's brought them to this low point.
They really have. You said those injuries. They only had 5 upperclassmen, one of them being a new player, and then 2 of them have been injured. But with all of these injuries, head coach Jennifer Roos says she's been working on a few different things to try and get the team back on track.
We're in a situation where we've got guards playing post positions, and anytime that you can increase your knowledge on the floor offensively and defensively by learning more than one position, I think that helps you overall as a player, and that's what we've really emphasized, to learn every spot on the floor, not just your position, and the kids have bought into that philosophy.
And Terry, if we look at some of the leading scorers for the Falcons, Erica Donovan led the team in average points per game, but she's injured. So when you take away one of the leading scorers, Deborah Hoekstra is up there, Miriam Justinger, Rachel Myers. But the glue for this team is sitting on the bench.
You're absolutely right. Erica Donovan was finally getting to the role where she was the main component. Last year, maybe a third option in their offense between Rogers and Hatfield. Now she was the big woman on campus for the team, and she was finally embracing that role. Looked like things were going well for them, and then finally she got that injury, and the wagon fell off. The wheels fell off the wagon, and the team has not been able to recover ever since.
No, it definitely has not. When you have to then rely on Deborah Hoekstra and Miriam Justinger, who usually aren't your very heavy scorers in these games, and you have to rely on them to pick up what Erica Donovan is leaving and what Jasmine Matthews is leaving on the bench. It's a lot for this team to try and handle.
Yeah, it's tough to ask any young freshman to come in there and be the best players for a team when they're just getting used to college basketball, Katie.
They absolutely are. If we want to take a look ahead now, we have the MAC tournament coming up. Just 2 games left in the season. What can we expect from this women's basketball team? Can they turn it around even a little bit for the MAC tournament and maybe take 1 or 2 games?
I don't think so, Katie. I don't think we're going to see a winner for the rest of the season. They're going to lose these 2 games and lose in the tournament. I
hate to say it, but it's not looking good. They're 2-14 in the MAC. Like you said, the last team in the MAC East and West combined. It'll be very interesting. They take on Buffalo and Akron this week, so we'll see if they can turn it around. Buffalo's a very tough team, and Akron is too. So
yeah, it could be another rough weekend for the Falcons, Katie.
Absolutely will. Now,
and when we come back, we'll have Hot or Not, excuse me, Katie, and we'll tell you about the hottest takes on some of Bowling Green's premier athletes. Keep it right here.
Welcome back. It's time for a little game called Hot or Not. Terry and I have a topic, and we give you our opinion on whether they are hot or not. Very creative, but we'll get it started with baseball. Trey Keegan, a catcher for Bowling Green. Hot or not, Terry?
Scorching hot. Trey Keegan, 13 of 16 on base this weekend for the Falcons against Eastern Kentucky. Led the team with 5 RBIs. Trey Keegan, MAC East Player of the Week. Very, very hot.
I completely agree. He scored 6 out of those 32 runs for the Falcons. First of all, 32 runs for Bowling Green this weekend. That is absolutely incredible. That's football points up on the board there. Trey Keegan, definitely hot with those RBIs in the at-bats. Now, moving on to the hockey team. A little trouble lately against Alaska and Northern Michigan. Hot or not?
Ice cold. They are colder than the ice that they skate on, Katie. The Bowling Green hockey team.
Brutal, Terry.
It is true. They lost to the worst team in the WCHA. That's after a weekend where they lost 2 to Northern Michigan, a team that they should beat both games. They've just kind of fallen off.
Absolutely. I got to go with cold as well. They are definitely not hot. 1-4 in their last 5 games. Teams they should beat: Northern Michigan, Alaska, Anchorage, the worst team in the WCHA, and they lose 6-1. 6-1. That is absolutely incredible. That is a very big not hot now.
Absolutely.
They were hot, now they're not.
They are not.
But 6 of those goals, that comes from the goalies.
Yes, it does.
Are the goalies hot or not?
If the team's not hot, the goalies probably aren't hot either. The goalies are cold as ice as well. They're just letting everything past them. In the game Saturday where they gave up 6 goals, both Tommy Burke and Chris Snell gave up 3 apiece. Both goalies very cold.
Absolutely. I got to agree again. They're not hot. Tommy Burke, he did get the win on Friday, but he got that loss on Saturday, and that was a big loss. Even the win, though, it was 4-3. Not that big of a win. He gave up 6 goals total this weekend. Like I said before, Chris Bergeron thought he'd get something different from Chris Snell. Got the same exact thing from Chris Snell as he did Tommy Burke. Both not hot. Now, swim and dive had MAC championships this weekend. They finished 3rd. Are they hot or not?
I'm going to say no, because this is the 3rd straight year they finished 3rd. Higher expectations. They finished a little bit better in 3rd place, but 3rd place nonetheless. This is a team that only had 1 loss in conference play this year. They thought they had a shot at winning it all, but they just got decimated by Akron.
I'm going to go with their hot, Terry. Yeah, they finished 3rd, but each year they have increased their point total in that 3rd place spot. They didn't have diving present this year at MAC championships like they haven't for the past 3. And for them to come in 3rd and not have that diving present in the MAC championships, they're a good swim team. And they also have a few women who made NCAA cut qualifying time. So we'll see them later on this year as well. So swimming team, although they finished 3rd, they're hot. Now we're going to switch it to men's basketball. Zach Denny, leading scorer against Miami. Hot or not?
Not, and here's why. Great finish for Zach Denny. 13 points in the final 8 minutes. All of those coming from the 3-point line and the free throw line. Very inconsistent shooting the 3-point ball this year, Zach Denny. Who knows if he's going to be able to keep that hotness going on the next game. The games before that, 3, 5, and 7. That was descending totals. He just hasn't been as consistent recently. Still coming off the bench. I'm
going to say hot. 9.7 points per game. And I'm going to go back to any time that you can pass Richaun Holmes as leading scorer in a game, you're hot. I think Zach Denny is back on track. I think he's going to continue this role that he's on, 17 points. Maybe this next game we'll see double digits again.
I guess we'll see, Katie.
Hopefully not 3, but I still think he's hot. So now when we come back, we'll have our pick of the week for Falcon Sports. Keep it right here. Welcome back. We have 4 games this week to give you our picks of the week: men's and women's basketball, baseball, and hockey. And what makes our picks better than putting a little friendly competition into it?
I love it.
We have my picks, Terry's, and Studio Crew's picks for each game. Each week we keep track of our records, and after last week, I unfortunately am in last place with a 1-3 record. Terry and Studio Crew sit at 2-2. So I'm only one away from you guys, though, so I'm right there. Now, our picks this week, we're going to start it off with men's basketball, Buffalo or BG. I'm going to go with Buffalo. I think that Bowling Green, while they're on the high, Buffalo's on that 4-game win streak. I think the Bulls are going to be a little too strong for the Falcons.
I'm going to agree with you, Katie. I'm going to go with Buffalo as well. I'm going to take a step further. I'm going to say Buffalo's going to win the MAC tournament here in a few weeks. Buffalo, the team predicted to win the MAC before the season started. It looks like it finally gotten underway. They have the leading scorer, and with that 4-game win streak that you mentioned, they are finally hitting on all cylinders.
Okay, well, I guess we'll find out. Studio says Bowling Green. So we got one Falcon pick there. Now moving on to women's basketball. Bowling Green or Akron? I've got to go with Akron. The women are on a 9-game losing streak. I think that is going to continue until the very last game of the season, which is Akron.
I think you're right, Katie. I've got to go with Akron as well. I think the team's just looking forward to next season, hopefully less injury depletion.
Absolutely. Studio Crew says Akron as well. I think they're on the same page with us, as the 9-game losing streak is not looking good for the team.
It's been an unfortunate season, but it is what it is.
It has. Now, moving on to baseball, Bowling Green or Campbell. I'm going with Campbell. They are 7-2 so far this season.
I'm going to go with Bowling Green. I think they're going to win this series. They dropped 1 against Eastern Kentucky, but did win 2. They bring out the bats. Like we mentioned earlier, over 30 runs this weekend alone. Bowling Green can hit, and I like them to continue down south against Campbell.
Studio Crew says Bowling Green as well. I think the big bats do come out for the Falcons. 32 runs this weekend. That's incredible.
Yeah, it is.
Bowling Green, they pick Bowling Green as well. Now, moving on to hockey. Bowling Green or Alabama Huntsville. As much as I would like to see the Falcons maybe turn it around after Northern Michigan, I've got to go with Alabama Huntsville.
I'm going against you, Katie. I'm going with the Falcons. This is the weekend. They turn it around this weekend and get back to their winning ways. I know there's a lot of sports going on, none more important than the Bowling Green hockey team. I don't think we can stress it enough. They are in danger of dropping not out of staying into the WCHA tournament, but possibly making the NCAA tournament, something that was sure thing a month ago. Sitting at 13 right now, that is right on that fence. And they drop a couple against a bad Alabama Huntsville team. That's not sugar-coated, Katie. This is a bad team at home. Falcons need 2 wins this weekend to be considered a successful weekend. Considering their struggles as of late, you have to go with the Falcons, and they need this win.
They absolutely do. Studio crew, though, is on my side. They're going to go with Alabama Huntsville as well. But I completely agree with you, Terry. This team really needs these 2 wins to turn it around. After Northern Michigan, they needed 2 wins going into Alaska.
Yeah,
they got swept by Northern Michigan, coming off of a loss before that against Fair State. So this team has really needed a turnaround in their schedule, and we thought Alaska Anchorage could have done that, and they got 1 game, but they couldn't finish off the weekend, and that's a problem that we've seen with the Falcons throughout the season. And
it was against the worst team in the WCHA, and this is a hockey school, Katie. There's been a buzz this whole year. Is BG back? 1984 national champions, the only national championship at the school. This is something that the students rally behind, that they've been excited about all year long. Broke the Ice Arena record for attendance against Ohio State. It is just deflating to see them kind of fall off back to some of the always we've seen in Falcon teams of the past. This weekend would be a big way to end that.
It definitely would, especially going into the WCHA tournament.
Absolutely.
Alabama Huntsville is the 3rd worst team in the WCHA, 3rd from the bottom, so hopefully they can take away 2 wins there, get some momentum going into this WCHA tournament where they do have home ice advantage, get some more of the fans packed in there and get that atmosphere really going again.
Yeah, the Madhouse on Mercer will be rocking this week, and you know the Bleacher Creatures will be in full force. This is the last chance for the Falcons to impress voters in the polls and get some momentum for the for the WCHA tournament.
It absolutely is. That is all we have for BG24 Sports today. Follow us on Twitter at BG24 Sports Now for breaking scores and news. And follow us on Instagram at BG24 Sports.
Plus, check out our website at BG24news.org for more videos. I'm Terry Lash.
And I'm Katie Warnke. Have a great night.